And welcome everybody to the Gamers We Care Podcast Show. My name is The Cup of Joe, and I will be your host this week. Mizzy and Trusted are taking the week off, but I'm pretty sure that Mizzy's here. Did see that. Got hosted by her. Thank you, Mizzy, as always. But today's topic that we're going to go into is how has the gaming culture changed over the years. But before that, I felt it was probably a little appropriate for me to introduce myself, as some people know me, some people don't. But as my name is The Cup of Joe, and I am a primarily FPS streamer. I've been involved with Battlefield and now mostly Call of Duty, doing shoutcasting and helping out some competitive teams along the way. But that is kind of where I'm at right now. I do have actually some new PC parts coming this week, so I will be getting on and actually doing live streams via PC very soon, so big excitement for that. But kind of going into my back history with gaming is it's kind of been ever prevalent in my life, whether it was myself having a gaming system from a young age or neighbors, things along those lines. Been gaming since my first gaming station was actually the Sega Genesis, and yes, that's dating myself there big time, but it is where I started, and I've kind of gone along the line through to PlayStation, then over to Xbox for a little while, then to PC, now back to PlayStation, and now back to PC once again. So that's kind of been my lineage, and I've been involved in, again, mainly first-person shooters ever since then. Early on, played Call of Duty 4 throughout the life cycle of that, played Call of Duty up until Black Ops 2, and moved on from there to the Battlefield series. It is, and ever since Battlefield 5 has kind of fallen off the map, moved over to Modern Warfare and been doing things over there, shoutcasting over there, and been a lot of fun. I got involved with Gamers We Care, got invited to it by Trusted and Mizzy, great friends now that have really been there and been supportive throughout the entire process of me starting to stream. And Trusted and I were rival competitive platoon leaders for Battlefield 5 and had a really great relationship that started off, as rivals, but has really blossomed into a really great friendship where we support each other. And Mizzy's just always been there in the background, being the former leader for XLGN. So that's kind of how I got involved with all of this. But it's a really great message that Mizzy's trying to do with the mental health awareness in the gaming community. So I definitely wanted to jump on board. I have had my own trials and tribulations throughout the years with mental health, and hope that any of my stories or anybody else's stories that we bring on here is able to help anybody else out there. Let's see who we got. We do have Mizzy, Danimal, and Miss Quinn in the chat. Great to see you all. Welcome. We are on the way to... Actually, I've just been told that my mic sounds funny. So let me see if I can't change that up right now. That is probably going to sound way better now. Hopefully. Most is going past the day. Shotgun's last quite a while. We'll talk. But with that, let's get to see it at hand. The game called King. Actually, that's not it is. I'm and be better. So, I will introduce my best.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me today. I got started with gaming in the 70s on Pong. That was way back in the day, and that was the first game I ever played. And from Pong moved to Atari, and played that for several years. So I've been in gaming ever since then for the most part. There was a break there, but I moved to the Nintendo systems all the way up through N64, and then got a decent PC back in the late 90s. And actually, my first FPS experience was on Tom Clancy's Rogue Spear with a gaming clan back in around 2000, 2001. And after that, played a lot of Star Wars Battlegrounds with a coworker over a LAN connection, or I guess it would be a phone connection. And then took about a 10 or 12-year break. I finally had a buddy who told me about Battlefield 4, and I bought an Xbox, somewhere around 2013 or 14, and got into Battlefield 4 and 1, mostly on the Xbox. Then I discovered Twitch, and learned of a couple communities that had a lot of active players on PlayStation. So a couple years ago, I moved to PlayStation, and I've been playing Battlefield 5 on PlayStation ever since. So I'm an old guy, but still a kid at heart when it comes to gaming. I actually reached out. I reached out. I was looking for a platoon, and me too. Well, one thing that I've thought about as we prepared for the show is, has it changed or has it just become more visible? Way back in the early 2000s on my first FPS, where you weren't really on mics and you were chatting over voice, or not voice, but text chat, um, you didn't have the ability to focus on typing and playing as much. So you didn't necessarily see the negativity that we see a lot these days back then. Um, but I think it's changed a lot as far as the visibility into the I guess toxic culture we see now. I think Twitch really played a big role in starting that, because you've got the ability to reach a wide range of people now. And you'll get thousands and thousands of viewers watching people. And just as much as positivity can breed positivity, negativity can breed negativity. And I think we see that it's changed in that we have more of a tendency to get caught up in the emotions around us, especially now that we can party up with up to 16 people and we can watch a viewer with tens of thousands of people. So I think that's really caused a lot of change as far as our reaction to the people we're watching. These people have become celebrities on these streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube and whatnot. And so there's a greater deal of influence available for the more, for lack of a better word, susceptible personalities out there who will fall into the emotions of whoever they're watching or playing with.
Yeah, it definitely has changed a fair amount over the years. And just in my eyes, it seems like there's been a big emphasis, especially with, now with the typing, as you were talking about, in game and everything like that, the amount of people that are willing to say, just terribly nasty things is more prevalent, obviously, because now it's an option. But now the community is just there's more, and just like in everyday facets of life, there is more of a megaphone now out there for people, especially on social media, to really go out and put out their disdain, displeasure with games, people, whatever the topic may be. They're just kind of out there, and everybody's got the biggest microphone in the world with their thumbs and their keyboard in front of them, just being keyboard warriors, going out and, just causing trouble. I mean, there are those people that just like to stir the pot, so to speak, and don't really want to try to add anything to the community in a positive light. They're just there to cause mayhem, honestly. They're like the Joker from the Batman series. That's all they really want to do. They, as the Joker said, or as Alfred said, some people just want to watch the world burn around them. And that's not what we're about. That is completely the opposite of what we're about. We're trying to put out the positivity and get the good word out there for people to bring them on in and have them have a really, awesome, safe place to come and talk about their issues and have them feel comfortable to open up around certain people.
Exactly.
So, go ahead.
I think a lot of what we're looking at is a perception issue now. We've lost a lot of sight of what the point of games were for us in the first place. They were an escape, a way to have fun. And I'll go on record being the first to admit I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say I've fallen in this trap before as well. I've sent those messages to people, and I don't like who I am when I do that, because what we tend to do is there's a very entropic nature to the negativity out there. So it's effort to be positive. It's easy to be negative. So we can all fall into that. And now that we've got this perception issue out there with a lot of negative people on the streaming platforms, it creates this thing or this reaction where we don't look at the game as fun. We see somebody complaining about a certain problem with the game or overall problems with the game, and then we start to get caught in that emotional trap too. And maybe the game really isn't as bad as these people are saying it is, but we tend to fall into that spiral and perceive it as that bad instead of pulling ourselves back and saying, hey, this is still fun. I'm a great example of somebody who stayed on Battlefield when everybody's left. I'm close to 2,300 hours in the game. Most people have moved on to other games, but that's because I've been able to say, I appreciate the positives in the game much more than the negatives, and I filter out the social media and everything else out there that can cause us to hate things.
Definitely. The hatred that's spewed out there by so many of the content creators, whether it's on Twitch or on YouTube or Facebook Gaming or any of the platforms in which people create content around certain games, just like in the regular news media, people like to hear about other people complain about things because they can jump on the bandwagon. And I do think that there is definitely there's place and process to put out proper criticism for a game. However, I do believe that it is taken way out of context in some aspects. There are several YouTubers, Twitch people that just seem to love to just completely bag on whether it's Battlefield 5 or whatever game it may be because of they didn't like the way that the game was developed, or they don't like the mechanics, or it's not the way that it used to be. I hear that a lot. It's like Battlefield used to be this, Battlefield used to be that, and now it's completely changed to something different. And people really like to just jump on that bandwagon of hate and ride it because mob mentality. The minority is the person that likes the game nowadays, unless everybody likes the game. It's just such a unfortunate thing that people like to put themselves into a group and attribute themselves to whatever it may be, whether it's we love this game or we hate this game type of thing. And it's very difficult for some people to articulate themselves in a really helpful manner to say, well, this is a way, and this is the game, and this is what I don't like about it, and here's some improvements. There are YouTubers out there, Twitch people, that really do take the time, sit down, look at it, analyze it, and offer suggestions that we hope eventually, whatever the game developer may be doing at the time, they're listening. But it seems like game developers have gotten away from listening to the community as much recently. And that's unfortunate because the game is here to please the gamers. It's not to please the creators. Yeah, it's great to have your own creative vision and everything like that, and to try to aspire to it. But if it comes out and people are not liking it, I can't understand why people wouldn't try to shift it. And I know it's incredibly difficult to change things once, a game is going and it's got a live service and they have a schedule or lack thereof a schedule. But it just seems like there needs to be understanding on both sides of the equation when it comes to games as a form of entertainment nowadays.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up the issue with game developers not listening, because sure, there are plenty of things in Battlefield 5 that I think need to be improved or changed. Absolutely. If it was so bad to me, I would just stop playing. But what we're seeing is a lot of the streamers are, for lack of a better term, teaching the culture that it's okay to continue to play but be unhappy instead of just moving on to something that you do enjoy. One thing I've never understood is, I'll jump into a stream and somebody from the minute they start streaming will start complaining about the game. And I think, well, why don't you just move on? Why don't you just stop? Because you're perpetuating that culture of negativity. The other problem is we have a tendency to criticize. I, as well as anybody, do. But I grew up, it's going to be a funny, quick side story, but I grew up with a father who would just sit there and criticize players in the NFL all day long. On our favorite team, he would just gripe about receivers missing passes or dropping passes or missed tackles or whatnot. And my reaction from a young age was, well, then go out there and do better. And I kind of feel the same about game development. If you can't develop a game yourself, you don't necessarily have the appreciation for what truly goes into it. When you look at the millions and hundreds of millions, maybe, lines of code and the detail that we see in these games these days, that's really difficult for anybody to accomplish at a layman's level. So I kind of don't understand the tendency to stick with something that makes you so unhappy that you then broadcast to the world as your unhappiness, which makes the world be unhappy, which makes people message people and be toxic in game chat. It's the circle jerk, for lack of a better term.
Definitely. It is. It does bewilder me as well why somebody that does not enjoy the game continues to play it. I do understand that for a lot of streamers, content creators, that the brand continuity, if you're a Battlefield guy, you got to do Battlefield. Otherwise, sure, you're not gonna keep your audience. And my heart goes out to content creators for Battlefield 5 because it's fallen out of favor in YouTube. It is an incredibly hard game to try to create for now, and that is due to no real fault of their own. In my eyes, it's something that needs to be looked at. They have the dice friend, or what's the thing that Battlefield content creators can be? I
think it's dice friend.
Yeah, there's
you
that.
Get the dog tag.
You get the dog tag, but then the ones that get to go to the event. I'm blanking on the events.
Yeah, I'm blanking on it too.
Oh, God.
If you hadn't said you were blanking on it, I probably wouldn't blank on it.
Somebody in the chat, they got to know. Somebody's got to know. Game changer. EA Game Changer.
Game Changer, yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Rattle it out from the back of my head. And a lot of them really did get out there and try to explain and try to help, but it seemed like all of their complaints and suggestions were going on deaf ears. But it's really such a give and a take, and there needs to be just better communication from both sides.
Right, and by no means do I do I think that DICE did this well? I don't want this to be about fully defending DICE. It's obvious I'm a fanboy of
Right.
Battlefield 5, but I can acknowledge that they just really threw out a lot of the opinions of the influencers out there. I tend to look at it more as a production studio issue than the developers. The developers are in the trenches. They're doing what the higher ups tell them, which is coming down from higher ups above them. So I shift it more towards EA, in which case EA needs to be the one responsible for listening to the influencers. There's no point of influencers if EA is just going to tell the development studios, you're going to do what we want and we don't care. And I think that's the big problem here. The sheer attacks that we saw, even threatening people's lives and families, the community managers who were just trying to communicate what they were only allowed to communicate, and people telling the developers I remember there's a UI developer for Battlefield, I can't remember her name, Natalie, I believe, Natalie Eck. She was receiving extremely hateful comments from people. She was under limitations too. So we need to shift where the communication goes, but how do you ever reach those high ups at EA?
Yeah, that is the big question. How would you, or how can anybody reach those people that are making the higher decisions? Because there is that chain of hierarchy, like any type of business has the chain of hierarchy, and everything is top down. And that is a very good distinction that you made about it's not really the developers. They're the ones that are creating the art, that are creating all of the things, writing the code and everything like that. All of the direction issues are from management, and so that needs to be addressed on not just Battlefield, on so many games nowadays that you see coming out. They just don't seem to listen to their communities. Some do it very, very well. And others just are falling behind the eight ball because they're this monstrosity of a title that is continually putting out games, whether it's yearly or bi-yearly or however often they're putting them out. So we've talked a lot about the negative of the gaming culture and how it's changed. Do you have any examples of how it has improved?
I think the best example of how it's improved is people are still out there playing. What we're really hearing online is the vocal minority, I feel, because if I'm out there playing Battlefield 5 hours a day, I'm not posting on Reddit the positives because I'm playing the game. So, you still got plenty of people that are out there enjoying the game who are treating each other with civility. We focus on the negative because it's so prominent, but you're not getting 100 messages a day from people complaining about you or your play or anything else. And I think that's the good thing is if you step outside of the social media world and get down into the game, there's still plenty of squad work out there. There's still plenty of people trying to work together. We just don't see it as much because it's hard to hear the positives. If I got on Reddit and posted, I've got 2,300 hours in Battlefield and love it, I'm downvoted into oblivion. People don't want to hear that. If I say, I don't care if somebody's running Misaki with a Type 2A on a German map, I'll get downvoted into oblivion for that because I don't care. I'm about the gameplay and the visuals. Yeah, they might look silly, but I'm immersing myself in what I enjoy. So I think that's one of the ways we're seeing positivity. I don't know if we're seeing it improve per se, but we often lose sight of the fact that there's still hundreds, thousands more people out there playing than there are griping about the game online. We're also seeing tremendous advancements in the technology, which everybody gets excited about. You see streamers all the time see what's coming up with PS5 and how exciting that is. We won't talk about how they might react as soon as it comes out and what they don't like, but we're really seeing a revolution in gaming. I mean, we're going to have ray tracing and almost instant load times on a PS5 like we did on Nintendo 30 years ago. That's going to be amazing. I'm sure the Xbox Series X will be the same. So I think the positives there are that there are people like you and me out there who try and ignore the vocal minority. It's just really hard to drown out that noise sometimes.
Definitely can be, because they scream from the heavens, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
And so, that is a very good point to point out, that there still are hundreds of thousands, millions of people that are out there that are still gaming, that are still enjoying whatever game they may be playing. I mean, the PC mod community in Call of Duty 4 is still a thing, and a lot of people still play it. And that game is, 12, 13 years old, something like that. And, Team Fortress 2, CSGO, all of these long storied games with long histories, just continually trudging on, and they adapt and they change whenever new technology comes out. And new technology is right on the horizon, being the PS5, the Xbox Series X. And like you said, that is definitely going to be something to behold, because it's basically going to be a computer. That's what it is. My hope is that they are going to give the same options that they do for computer within the newer games as well. FOV sliders, graphic changes, things along those lines. Just because it'll bridge the gap that much better if they're able to give the same options as they are on PC, because just switching from Call of Duty on PS4 to going to PC, it's a different game when you're on PC, honestly. It just is. You can change so many different things and tweak so many different things to give you the advantage over a PS4 or Xbox Series or Xbox currently. And that's great. I think the closer we can get it to each other, the better it's going to be, because then there will be less of the so-called people being like, oh, PC master race. If you're not on PC, you're not a real gamer
right.
type thing. And it's like, okay, well, PS5 is basically a mid-grade PC that's going to have ray tracing, that's going to have those instant load times because of SSDs and other technologies that they've put in there. So I'm excited to see what they do and how much of a leap it is, honestly, how much of a leap in performance it's going to be, because you hear so much about, once you can actually have a game that actually runs consistently at much higher frame rate, it's worlds of difference between like 60 frames to 100 frames. It's massively different. And then when you get even higher, it starts to diminish the jump of performance. But it's going to be interesting to see what they're able to eke out of the new systems as far as performance and graphic fidelity and all the other options that are coming along with it. It is just an exciting time to be a gamer. Moving on to the next series of systems, it is. I remember when things were changing from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One and PS3 to PS4. Just the hype that was built around it. And it's like, oh my God, the graphics are so much better. The games can be so much bigger. They can really push the envelope with their development. And now with the PS5, Xbox Series X, they're going to be able to do that again and extend it even further. So just really exciting time to be a gamer for sure. And it is going to be it's just going to be an interesting process, seeing all the people switching over, plus all of the people that unfortunately won't be able to switch over immediately, because we still don't know the price of these things. Speculation anywhere from $400 to $800, so it's a wide range. But a lot of people will be still gaming on their PS4s or Xbox Ones for quite a while after this one comes out. Eventually, everybody will have to switch over to the new gen, because they will no longer continue making games for old gen. But right. It is, just the that's another big thing about how the gaming culture has changed, is just that advancement of technology and getting it so super realistic now between regular video games, so to speak, versus also now VR experiences that came into the scene quite a while ago. and kind of revolutionize. And it's funny because VR, when it started, very much so was very similar to what old generations of games used to be. Very blocky, very not very well optimized, and you're getting to see that process of improvement of graphics, improvement of gameplay, improvement of so many different things all over again, but for a completely different gaming experience when it comes to VR.
Right. And I think, I know it's a little odd that we're talking about technology when we're talking about gaming culture as well, but what I'm hoping it does is it brings a new wave of excitement. I think things get stale very quickly for the gaming community, and new systems and new games and experiences hopefully will at least temper the negativity for a while, because the excitement should take over. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that the culture itself is still on us. And I think a point I want to make too is the positives that can be spread out there start with just each one of us. Like I said myself, I've fallen victim to being negative as well. But when I step back and I just look at my behavior and I realize these could be kids, these could be 10-year-olds that we're playing against. Not that I necessarily think a parent should be allowing a 10-year-old to play something on the level of Battlefield, both because of the nature of the player base and the language and violence in the game. It's still very much a possibility. Video games, unfortunately, have replaced parenting a lot because they're a babysitter, or it may be children or younger adults who don't even have people around, and this is where they immerse themselves. So if just one person, this is what I tell myself, if just one person can either send a positive message or not send anything negative, that helps the culture. So those changes are small. I don't have a streamer base where I can breed that positivity, and we've already seen how it doesn't really help the positivity anyway, because of how many streamers are out there running around being negative. I think we each have to look at ourselves and just really think for 30 seconds before you send that message or you say something in a game chat, and think about who your audience might be. And if we all do that, hopefully in-game that would start to improve that culture.
I have a perfect example of just myself in that situation in Warzone, doing this little tournament thing with TFR right now, doing trios, doing a kill race. And we were playing earlier this morning, and I zip lined up to the top of a building, killed 2 guys, and then there was one guy kind of running around that we couldn't find, and then I ran into him. And pretty handily was able to eliminate him. And in Warzone, there's after death chat where you can hear the person that you just eliminated. And I would say this kid probably was anywhere from 13, maybe 14 years old. And, for a brief moment I was like, oh yeah, I just took you out. And then I was like, oh, well, that was some kid that's just trying to have fun. And I'm out here trying to be all sweaty playing in this Warzone tournament. And he's just looking out here on a Sunday morning to get some rounds in with his friends and not get completely obliterated. And so that's also, I think, a big thing that the gaming culture has changed in, is the amount of competitiveness and the amount of wanting to improve your skills within a game. Games used to be just something that was a pursuit of enjoyment. There was not so much of this just overall competitiveness to be the best, to get the high kills, have the highest kill death ratio, get the fastest speed run, have the I don't know what a good example for like WoW or anything else would be, because I only play FPS, but everybody knows what those games are about and how you can be better in them and everything like that. And especially, the amount of things that have changed on that end is almost seemingly endless. It is just, there's so many, especially now with all of the live streamers doing these like weekly tournaments. Right now, Warzone tournaments seem to happen every other few days, and they're high value events. I mean, $100,000 event just happened this past week, and you know, the content that is created off of that is amazing, but it is, what is it doing to the smaller minority of people that are just on the game to get some rounds in with friends and try to have a good time and try to get a victory? But then you've got a trio of ultra monsters on souped up PCs that have the best of everything come rolling down and just completely obliterate you. Granted, in Warzone, skill-based matchmaking makes it so that you're playing roughly the same tier of player, but it's just been interesting to see the dynamic that when Warzone started to where we're at with Warzone right now. The dynamic has completely changed.
And let's be honest, 30 years ago, the skill just involved how quickly you could train your muscles to make it through Super Mario Brothers. There wasn't randomness in games back then like you have in FPSs. So in Warzones and Battlefields, your muscle memory and your reaction time is only going to get you so far. I could have the best reaction time in the world and the best muscle memory for how to flick on players, but a plane coming in with an incendiary bomb isn't going to, I'm never going to beat that if I'm on the ground. You know, so that's the thing too, is we're dealing with a lot more randomness in the skill. You can know your lanes, you can know your positioning and whatnot, but players are going to be random when you're teaming up with people from all over the world. And the other thing that the streaming platforms and like you mentioned, the $100,000 tournament has done is it's shown the younger generation that they could make a living, in fact, a fortune, more than I'll ever see in my life, by being good at a video game. So that has perpetuated an even higher level of competitiveness and toxicity, because people are trying to get to the point where they can be one of these high-level streamers who can make tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes a day. And I think that's really perpetuated that competitiveness.
Definitely, I can definitely identify with that. On a fair amount of levels, it is the amount of people that are out there in the gaming world that are trying to create and become, you know, full-time Twitch streamers, full-time YouTubers. It is, you know, there's the piece of the pie that they're trying to get at is such a small sliver out there that it's very difficult to make this a job or make streaming a job there. And some people will try and will fail and will be dissatisfied with the results because they felt like, oh, well, I did everything that everybody else did. I grinded for 8 hours a day for a year, and I'm still sitting here at a few thousand followers, you know, maybe some subs, and getting 20 to 30 views. And the amount of hard work does play into it for sure, but the amount of luck that really plays into it as well is it's no easy task trying to get to that level. And some people unfortunately are wasting their time trying to achieve that because whatever reason, for whatever reason, they're just not going to be able to do that. And that's unfortunate because becoming Twitch famous or YouTube famous sounds amazing. Making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to play video games, to react to things, to, you know, make whatever it is, the content that you're creating, it definitely sounds like a wonderful life.
Right, who wouldn't want to get paid that much to play video games?
Yeah, exactly.
The market saturation is a very frustrating matter for all of these people who are trying to get that good. You know, what I'd like to see is people taking a different approach. Imagine if, and I'm not saying all of the biggest streamers out there are negative, but imagine if somebody said, this is going to be a 100% positive, clean stream. And you're filling a niche there, because some people like me won't go out and watch those negative streamers. I don't want to watch somebody yell and rage and cuss through their whole stream, no matter how big they are. So if there's a way for people to make an influence or be more of an influencer on the positive side, look for those niches. Look at the fact that the biggest streamers sometimes are not the happiest people in the world. They're ultra competitive, but I think you could be both, and that gives you a chance to reach that positive audience who may never come into your stream if you're negative.
Exactly. There is a way to be at the top, but also be a good person, and I think a lot of them do that currently, and they found a really good mix. But there are those that are out there that are just, they're big, but they're entertaining, but they are not the most positive people in the world. And yeah, you're gonna have rage moments when stupid things happen in game and whatever it is to knock you off whatever it is you're trying to achieve, but nobody's perfect, exactly. So the gaming culture, I think, to kind of just wrap it up, because we are running out of time pretty soon, is that the gaming culture has changed vastly over the years since you and I started playing it, between the technology, between the people that are able to use this as a form of income / lifestyle / career. The technology has advanced. There's just been so many facets that have been positively affected, that to see all of the negativity that it has brought along with it, it's unfortunate. But I think that if everybody is able to really keep in the mindset that it's just a game, it really just is a game at the end of the day, that there is light at the end of the tunnel for people that maybe are in that mindset of, oh, I have to be the best, I have to do this because this is what I want to do with my life. And I'm not trying to dishearten anybody from saying, oh, I want to go out and I want to be a streamer or I want to be a content creator. Just have realistic expectations for that, saying that it's probably going to take a long time before you can afford your bills to pay your rent just from YouTube, just from streaming.
Right. And one important final thought I have to throw out there is I've actually recently learned that many counselors and therapists out there have actually started to add gaming counseling to their repertoire, because this can affect people extremely deeply. They get way too involved, way too emotional about this for whatever reason. And I myself had personal experience where I learned a counselor I used actually said, I've started to learn that there's this subculture of counseling that specifically targets gamers. They can often be a more sheltered or closed-in audience with nobody to talk to about these things. So that's something for people to keep in mind. If it's really getting that bad for you, there's people out there who are actually starting to tailor counseling towards helping you get through those things so you can get back to enjoying what games are meant to be.
Yeah, that's a great thing to point out, that they're, with all of the difficulties that a lot of the gamers have, because as you said, we're traditionally a more of an introverted type of person, keep to ourselves, like to play our video games. But with the advent of online multiplayer, a lot of people do use online gaming for their friend base. It is not very uncommon that you have stronger, closer relationships with the people that you game with than the people that you are at work with, or you are IRL friends with. That's definitely becoming and has become very prevalent, and having a healthy boundary of that and having actual human interaction, because there is a difference in actual human interaction is needed for people, that people are seeing that this is becoming an issue and offering help for it. So that's a really great thing to see out there that's been brought up. So I think that is probably going to do it for us today. We are at that 45-minute mark, but I wanted to say thank you all for coming out to the Gamers We Care podcast. Today with me, the Cup of Joe. Thunderboy, thank you very much for being my first guest.
My pleasure.
Had a wonderful conversation, and if anybody is out there looking for a great gamer community to join, come on over and join Gamers We Care. Got a whole wide range of people that play all sorts of different games, and we are more than happy to bring you on in. It is a really great place. I've met so many wonderful people within there. But with that, we are going to call it a good show, and I hope everybody has an amazing rest of their Sunday, and we will catch you next Sunday with, I believe it's going to be Mizzy's turn to solo a podcast. So until then, we will see you later.